So, Tony Verb, welcome to Breakfast with Bobsy.
Thank you very much, Bobsy. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is indeed, yeah. So Tony, you and I, we've known each other for some time in this wonderful city in a dynamic, interesting way. I've always admired the way you approach things, your thinking, your clarity. You can look deep into things. One doesn't have to explain the hell out of things for you to get it, and I've always admired that. But we first met when we were both speakers at TEDx, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And back then you were speaking about Botillon.
Yes.
Right? Briefly, before we talk about Botillon, which I'm very keen to talk about, you describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur. I know you've been involved in some funky stuff in this city. Besides Botillon and all that underground events you were doing, then you helped set up Ticket Flap, right? And also you were instrumental in also organizing Clock and Flap, taking it to a certain level before it could, find its own rhythm. And co-founder of Meta, which is definitely up there and is leaving an impact on the city. And now you're up to big things with the Greater Bay project, which we can talk about, and all sorts of funky stuff. Yeah.
Let's talk about it all. There's a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So where do we begin?
I think the moment we met is an interesting one. I still remember that as you were telling me. We were standing in front of a map, a big map, where people were just putting their pins where they were from.
This is at TEDx.
It was TEDx Victoria Harbor,
Right.
2014.
13?
13 or 14.
I think it was 13.
13 or 14, yeah. And we were both speakers standing in front of the. I'm just telling actually our viewers, right?
To me here.
Standing in front of the map, and I saw this man, and I of course had to talk to him. So where are you from? Yeah, where did you come from? And he pointed at Lebanon, and I asked him, as Bobsy, how did you end up in Hong Kong, right? And he told me you came through Thailand, and enlightenment found you in Thailand. And I remember that look in your eyes, where I somehow saw everything that unfolded in your story, from enlightenment to adventures to parties to fun, love, ending up in Hong Kong, and obviously making a huge impact on the city with Mana, which you gave me a lot of compliments, but let me give a lot of compliments for you for that.
Thank you.
Big deal, and very, very important business. So that's my first memory of you. It should be probably the first memory, and I don't expect you to remember, but definitely this was our first conversation.
Interesting. Good. I'm glad I didn't give you my usual answer when people ask me how did you end up in Hong Kong, and I mean it.
What do you usually say?
So ask me.
How did you end up in Hong Kong?
It's my destiny.
Beautiful.
And I truly mean it, because if you really look back, how does one end up anywhere?
Yeah.
It's destiny, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't always share that with everybody, because some people just. But it used to be even more. What can I say? Non-specific. When I first came to Hong Kong, back in the early 90s, people would say, so where are you from?
Mm.
And I would say, I'm from the earth, from Mother Earth. And man, that didn't go down too well back then. Like, a few people would go, wow, cool on, you know, yeah, me too, you know. But the majority are like, what the fuck?
Who the hell are you?
What? Where are you from? You
Yes.
know, and some would walk off in a huff and a puff, and after a while I realized I have to stop saying that. I meant it. I truly meant it. Otherwise, I have to tell you I'm born in Beirut, raised there, come from English parents, you know, the whole, you know, as we do as global citizens.
Yeah.
But I truly meant I am from Mother Earth. But I realized it wasn't going down too well. So I toned it down a bit. And then in latter years, it became my destiny. Because I realized that's my truth. So but I'm glad I told you Beirut. We were looking in front of a map, maybe.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. Because I was specifically asking where on earth are you coming
Don't
from?
give me this big, you know, tell me where you're from.
But I agree with destiny. I don't think I ever used this word, but Hong Kong is definitely destiny for me. I lived in a couple of cities around the world, and Hong Kong was the place where I felt I had to be. When I came here for the first time, I knew I will live here one day. And you know, we who are not born here know this feeling, and the people who stay here know this feeling. We usually, most typically, fell in love with the city in like the first 5 to 10 to 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
And that love is constant, it's not going anywhere. And the city has such a unique energy that you can't just replace it with anything. And now I'm becoming cliche because everyone knows this who lives in Hong Kong. We all agree with that, but maybe there are some viewers who are not from Hong Kong.
Maybe they've been here a few minutes and they're wondering whether they should stay or not.
Exactly, and definitely.
Hong Kong grows on you. The longer you stay, the better it becomes.
And,
it's a lovely city.
And just stay. Yes, we are here for a reason.
I'm glad you said felt it, because that's how you know it's your destiny. You feel it.
Yes.
For me, I landed here with, you know, penniless, pretty much. No home, no job, nowhere to stay. Nothing. I just came.
What did you do in the first couple of days? How did it look like?
I had a friend,
Okay.
so he was my friend from Bangkok, and I ended up crashing on his sofa for a while, as one does. So I couch surfed, if you like, for the first 3 months, out of sheer necessity. But coming back to your point, I felt at home here from the very beginning, even though I was completely surrounded by unknown insecurities, challenges that are mind-boggling to say the least. I felt this is home, and that's how I know it's my destiny. And I'm glad you shared that. That's what I mean, Tony. You
Same.
yeah, you can go deep quickly.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. How's your cocoa?
I love it. Whoever has not tried cocoa, again, let me just put some advertising on. This is a real good coffee.
Thank you. Yeah, we take our coffee seriously, and okay, we're in the backwater here, but we want to take this concept onto the main street and revolutionize coffee, just like we did with food in Mana over there.
And you just launched the burger recently?
Mana burgers, chips and dips.
How has it unfolded?
For a start, for a concept that's only been around 2 weeks, yeah, it's unfolding nicely.
Very happy to hear that. I haven't tried it yet, unfortunately, because I've been in and out.
You need to
of
live
Hong
in
Kong.
Wan Chai, Admiralty, or Causeway Bay to get it.
I'm gonna move just to be able to try.
No need. Starting late April, we're going to launch it from Central, Sheung
Okay.
Sai Ying Pun, and Kennedy Town.
Okay, cool.
Hang on.
Okay, all right.
Don't focus yet.
I will wait. I will hold my breath and wait my round.
Anticipate.
Yeah. The real change in my life was turning from everything entertainment and culture to everything innovation and technology. And you mentioned Ticket Flap. My experience with Ticket Flap, which was the first digital business in my life, just opened my eyes towards the startup world. And I just realized that was my tribe. That was those.
You felt comfortable there.
Very comfortable. Most importantly, because I enjoy nothing more than talking about the future, talking about ideas, how to make things better. how we can work together. Yeah, and that's the spirit of the startup community.
But still, the spirit of people. It's people-based.
Absolutely.
Whether it's community coming for culture or community coming to change the world for the better. through
Absolutely,
technology.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that led me to my destiny, which was co-founding and building Meta, which is a community space for the innovation startup ecosystem. That was also pretty much my entry ticket to the world of innovation, as I refer to it, because I was asking myself, how can I add value to this world? I'm not a tech person. I don't have hundreds of millions on my bank account to just open a big fat investment fund.
Right.
I need to create value in the way I can create value, and that was a way for me to create value. So very much, the two are very much related. The spirit is very similar, and both projects and both threads are underlining my mantra to life, which is the reason why we are here, is to create, simply to create. And whether we create art or we build a new tech company, for me it doesn't actually matter, as long as it adds value to our world.
Crucial, very important. And sitting now here on this lovely terrace with no cars, if you've noticed.
Yes,
Pedestrianised
that's why I
part of
love
Hong
to
Kong.
come here.
We're March 2018. How are you feeling now, having, been in the kind of cultural reggae party event? But
We
with a
didn't even
purpose.
talk about
No,
reggae.
we didn't even talk about reggae, with a purpose.
Yes.
And then doing Ticket Flap, and that's successful, and Meta's successful, and then you're moving more towards blockchain technology and intelligent design to create better living. Right? So how are you feeling now, sitting here talking to me in this moment in time of your destiny?
It's a very interesting time in my life. Somehow, about a year ago, sitting down, almost date to date, okay, talking about destiny, I felt I arrived to the point I've given the value that I wanted to give, and it was time for me to build my life's work. And I started to investigate what that was, and increasingly I realized as blockchain technology is something that started to become mainstream and emerge and became unavoidable or something that people couldn't ignore anymore about a year ago, growing beyond the exponential rate. And the adaptation of Bitcoin or the hype around Bitcoin, we can call it however we want it. But this technology and this world, from nothing became something extremely fast. And people who didn't know what Bitcoin was or blockchain was, in a couple of months, tens of millions of people not only knew it, but were owning such stuff. And I got involved in that thinking and was developing a concept which was a bank for the unbanked on blockchain. I like to learn things by doing them. And I thought, let's just try to combine a couple of areas that I'm interested in and see whether we can create value. In the end, we gave up that project because there was a logical kind of dead end, but it led me to believe in not necessarily blockchain as a technology, but decentralized models of being and doing business. And freedom. It boils down to freedom. It ultimately boils down to freedom. So much so, I started to work on a book that's titled Decentralized Generation, and I initiated a new organization, a new entity dedicated to education and research in the space called Decentralized Institute. And I know for a fact, and if we look at many of the projects I've done in my life, specifically the ones I've done in Hong Kong, we're all pretty decentralized. If you look at the Botillon situation, if you look at Meta, these are all highly decentralized systems. I am organically pulling towards decentralized systems. And now there's a technology, there's an ecosystem, there's a financing model that enables decentralized systems to not only be adapted but also be efficient and successful. So I realized I had to learn this deeply and I had to spread it further, and my next big project will have to be properly decentralized, not just having features of decentralization. So I feel very excited. I'm 34. I usually don't ask people how old they are because it doesn't matter.
34 years young.
Yes, for some, but for some it's pretty old.
Right.
I still thought I was 20 something a couple of weeks ago, and then I realized I was 34.
You were not anymore, right?
And you were actually at my birthday, my 34th birthday, Bobsy, where I actually explained many of these initiatives and reasons why I'm doing things.
Talk about your birthday?
Yes.
Brilliant. I was so honored to be there, and I came with Miko as well. And now you know what attracted me the most about that event and how you set it up? It was the text you sent out to everyone. And you're saying, all my best friends are going to be there, and if they're not, they should be. Brilliant. Genius. So even if I don't know you, you are the person who should be there, because I need you to be there, because you will be my best friend. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Just that insight was like, I've mentioned it to a few people and they're like, yeah, right on. We learn from our mistakes, and they become experience, and experience after a while becomes knowledge, and then eventually you turn knowledge into wisdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how it goes, round and round. But anyway, I love those words. You know, everyone should be there, my best friends, and if they're not, they should be there.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was a great and very unique birthday, at least for me. And
I love the way you said, okay, I'm going to talk about 20 minutes, just 20 minutes about this subject then. And like 1 hour later. But yeah, fascinating stuff.
Now the viewers can tell, I can talk if I'm given a microphone.
It's not we were looking at our watches, twiddling our thumbs.
No, that was the last learning, right? I was trying to do it once again, transactional, but it was just not how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it ended up the right way.
And you unleashed something called the conscious colony as one of the options, and the other option was decentralized colony. Institute. Yes. I like the word colony. So yeah, you had your yin, your yang, your intuitive, your logical, a whole. And then I think a lot of the feedback you got, from me including, was that they're not exclusive, they're inclusive, right? I agree. And they turn out to be entirely. So, absolutely. So I'm heavily working on a project and preparing a project that is a new kind of community. I would not like to talk about it too much because it's not there yet. No, but I will call it the greater salon on our WhatsApp. Yes, group, yes. Right? And then there's the word colony. Yes, and there's a concept of decentralization. The salon de Verb. And it's all unfolding. Yeah, I'm like that as well. I mean, so many concepts, and they're all worlds unto themselves. Like for example, if we said eat like it matters in Mana, or we said diet change, not climate change, or we said food that doesn't cost the earth. Each one of those is a world, it's a book unto itself. Very and true. All these wonderful names and ideas, and the challenge is how to put it into one. The challenge is less is more, right? And the old yogi saying is, it's complicated to make life simple, and simple to make life complicated. And you go, absolutely. It takes years and years and years. Have you managed to make life simple? Or simple to make it complicated, or complicated to make it simple? the answer is no. You know, the answer is no, because as a cultural creative, there's so much to culturally create. Whichever way you look, there's work to be done. Whether it's the arts or the humanities or culture or innovation.
And life is too short, isn't it?
Or changing bad habits, like how we use plastic and how we abuse the food system, and life is very short. And you realize as you get older / younger, you realize how short life is, right? And you know, it's cliche, but so many people when they get into their 70s or 80s, they're still young up here. But their bodies are ailing, but their minds are still beautiful minds and powerful. And they have all these ideas, but their body can't take it. And then they tell you, my son, you know, don't waste time. Life is short. And you know, if you're a 20-year-old kid, you know, yeah. But you know, when you're 41 or 51 or 61, then you realize
34.
34, you're waking up to that. That's amazing.
Yes.
And that's good.
Yes.
Because don't think you're old at all. You are 34 years young. You know why? What are you going to say when you're 54?
Yeah. I guess the same thing. No?
Yeah, you're going to say 34. I wish I was 34 again. Oh my God. So I'm even hearing it from 25-year-old friends who are like, I'm getting old, man. I'm 25.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
About that, I already laugh, you know, because I'm old enough.
What are you going to say when you're 65?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm young.
Yeah, but anyway, the great thing about today's world, that I think it matters from a societal bias and from opportunities and access point of view, it matters less and less how old you are. You can start a company when you're 13. You can start a company when you're actually 70. And no one will look at you that you're crazy.
Yeah.
It is all possible.
Yeah.
Whether it's a tech company or a coffee shop or anything, people are very receptive for creativity, and I think people universally, at least in places like Hong Kong, are very supportive for people doing things that are out of the norm and celebrate the spirit, which is ageless. And if we look back in history, actually, that is not really the new norm. Some of the most successful people in history were already pretty successful when they were very young.
Yeah, right.
So the world was always celebrating ageless creativity. Obviously, celebrating more the young, genius creativity, but not exclusively.
No.
So I think I don't care about age. I try to force myself, even when I think I should ask the question about age, not to ask the question about age.
No. Absolutely.
I don't even know how old you are, but
How young you mean?
yeah,
I am.
you're just young.
I'm
That's
20
it.
years your senior. I might not look it, but I am.
That's insane, Bobsy. Well done. I think people who want to look like this should eat more manna, or just more healthy.
Eat more manna definitely helps, because the old adage, we are what we eat. But I think more importantly, to go a bit deeper than food or practicing yoga or working out, is to have a purpose in life. Especially to have a mission-led enterprise. I think that keeps us young. Because you can continuously add value and give. And I think that is the secret. And if you do look back, and a lot of the great people throughout history, they didn't need money to do what they did. They didn't need any superpowers to do what they did. They founded everything they did on trust. They had this innate, inborn trust. 100%. And that was a platform that allowed them to change the world.
Trust in themselves, trust in the universe, trust in their intuition, knowing what
Correct.
what to
Trust
do.
in all of creation.
Yeah.
Not just their own powers, because
Yeah.
we're human after all, and we could drop dead tomorrow. No, they had a trust in God, if you're comfortable with that word, or the creative universe, or a greater intelligence. They had a trust in a purposeful life, in a universe that had a purpose. Whether we're looking at Mahatma Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, or William Blake, or Voltaire, or whichever way you throw it, you look at these individuals and you see that they had this faith. I like to call it trust, with a capital T. And they didn't need billions of dollars in their bank accounts, but they had a purpose in that. And that kept them, I think, eternally youthful. So it's much bigger than what you eat or what you practice or how rich you are. It's an internal universe. And this keeps us on edge. It keeps us making change. It keeps us plowing ahead regardless of the hurdles. Yeah. So you see the hurdles as challenges. And I see the same spirit in you.
Thank you very much. Like Martin Luther King, that's a big compliment. I never got that before, but I reject it.
Why not? Yeah.
I reject it. It's too big a word.
If you sat down with Martin Luther King and you said Martin Luther King to him, he would have not known what you were talking about. It's only later, looking back at his actions and his words and his deeds,
Very
that
true.
you realize who Martin Luther King was.
I have huge respect for that man.
And it's the same. People talk about the good old days, but if I really took you back to the good old days, were they really that good? You were, still insecure, worried about this, worried about that. But it's only when we're looking back with nostalgia, we go, those were the good old days. No, these are the good old days. Now.
Now is always the good old.
Forever now, and it's easy to look back and be judgmental and critical, but how about being judgmental and critical now to your reality and realizing that these are the days, this is all we have. Does it matter what you ate for lunch 2 weeks ago? Or how good that bottle of wine was 2 weeks ago?
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this book or this one here. That's the book that changed my life. It talks about the global mind change.
Would you lend it to me?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We have it for sale here. I'll dedicate one to you. That's your browsing copy.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, this is the book that I had the...
Is it already on record?
Probably.
Why not?
It's
Why
always
not?
recorded.
Why not?
I had the...
I'm being sold a book too.
the pleasure or the luck or the destiny of having this book land on my lap in 1990. And it was quite an influential friend. I was living in Bangkok back then. And she said, Bobsy, I've just finished reading this book. You have to read it. And this book was written in 1988. And everything in this book has come true.
Oh, wow.
Everything.
Is it still relevant?
Spoken about. Extremely relevant. Why? Because it sums it all up for you. Why are people waking up now? Why are we caring about the earth? Why are we caring about our health? Why do we care about what we eat? Why do we care about human rights, women's rights? It's all there for a very solid reason. And once you see this, once you get an insight, you go, oh yeah. And then you can look back historically and see these periods of transformation that humanity went through. And there's only a handful of them. I'm not talking about change of governments or change of technology or change of some big revolution. I'm talking about much, much deeper changes. Changes in our worldview. A change in what they call a paradigm.
Yep.
And there's only been 3 or 4 of those at most.
Yep.
But now, today, and this is what this book is talking about, we are going through the biggest change of them all. Why? Because of the sheer number of people in the world today who are transforming, who are waking up to a holistic worldview. And it's no longer isolated, say, to the ancient Chinese civilization, or the ancient Greeks, or the ancient Egyptians, or the Renaissance period.
We are in it together.
Collectively, for the first time ever, it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, educated, uneducated, woman, man, whether you're living in New York or Timbuktu, we are all suddenly waking up. And Willis Harman, the late Willis Harman, eloquently talks about this and sums it up and gives you a very deep, dare I say, scientific, but an intuitive scientific way of understanding these transformations, because any period of transformation throughout history is met with a lot of resistance, a lot of stress, right? You know, looking at the world as round or flat. Once upon a time we believed the earth was flat, and anyone who said otherwise was locked up. Yet, lo and behold, we live in a round planet, right? But you had to go through this transformation, and now we're going through the biggest one of all. And here Paul Hawken also talks about it. He calls it a blessed unrest. You're blessed, but you're unrestful. And how the largest social movement in history is restoring grace, justice, and beauty to the world.
Are you selling this as well?
Yeah, we sell books to change the world. Both books are available. But it would be my honor to gift you one.
Oh my
And
God.
I'll dedicate it to you.
He's such a big man.
It's a book you must read. It should grip you straight away. And you know, one of his famous quotes, you'd like this: perhaps the only limits to the human mind are those we believe in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
For
I
you
love it.
as a, you know, entrepreneur,
Absolutely.
that's the only limits are what you believe in. You believe we can change the world? Yes, we can. You believe we can all live on this paradise on earth in abundance and harmony? Yes, we can. We're only limited by our minds.
I couldn't agree with that entirely. And you know my approach to life and to this topic. I'm very much propagating this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I never really read such books, watched such videos, even talk about this with too many people. But a couple of years ago, somehow it clicked to me that what's happening right now, it's one big collective global transformation and awakening, and it's indeed an incredibly exciting time in history where we can be part of it, ignore it, or add to it. And I decided I wanted to add to it. And I'm still figuring out the way I can add the most to it. But I believe the decentralized technologies, decentralized structures, the whole philosophy, and the underlying infrastructure is emerging in this moment of time for a reason.
Yeah.
For a reason. So the two are interconnected, and for me that's definitely the path.
Yeah. Technology has a big role to play, enlightened technology as a tool. But I've always advocated that we have to have a deeper understanding of why we fucked up the world we fucked it up. There's good reasons why. It's not because humans are evil.
So tell me why.
It's to do with our worldview. It's to do with how we collectively view the world. And for the last 500, 600 years, we've collectively viewed the world as made out of matter. We've seen the entire universe made out of a physical particle, what you call a building block in science, be it an atom or a sub or a quark. Or you can go infinitely smaller and smaller, but the fundamental belief that we all share is that the universe is made out of a physical particle. There is no spirit involved. There is no consciousness involved. There is no God. There is no purpose in life. Nature is there to be conquered and shaped to man's use. And I use the word man deliberately here. this has been the collective belief system, whether you're born in Budapest or Beirut, it does not matter. It's what our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents also believed, regardless of how advanced their life was, regardless of whether you had to walk 2 miles to fetch water or you opened your tap in the morning. We still all belong to this paradigm, which is referred to in science now as a mechanistic materialism worldview. And your professors at university and our great-grandparents, professors at the university, had they been lucky enough to go, would have been taught the same thing as a worldview. And that's what's known as a paradigm. So the paradigm into which you and me have been born is essentially a materialism paradigm. And this has led us to seeing nature as something made out of matter.
Yeah.
As a resource for our own use. So we take from nature, we take, because we're not aware that we are nature. We're not aware that nature is alive, because the scientific paradigm is that it's made out of matter. So nothing really matters. So we take all the fish from the sea, we chop all the trees down, we pollute all the water. Because we always assumptions is that man was put on earth as his own domain. Now this is a scientific worldview that officially started in 1543. It's known as the Copernicus Revolution, when Nicholas Copernicus proved scientifically that the Earth was not the center of the universe. The Earth was just a planet rotating around the Sun, and the Sun was rotating around other planets. And that was groundbreaking, that was shattering. He would have been killed, but luckily he published the book on his deathbed in 1543, published the book, died, and then Galileo came along, and of course he was almost killed for his beliefs that the Earth was not the center of the universe. But anyway, that created this scientific revolution, or the scientific paradigm, or what I refer to as the materialism paradigm.
Yep.
Right? So this is the fundamental reason why we have done what we've done to nature. But what this book talks about, it talks about a transformation as we transform from this materialism paradigm into a consciousness paradigm. And therein lies the hope, because we are waking up en masse, whether we're Albert Einstein or Mahatma Gandhi or any of the modern founders of revolutionizing Google or Facebook or Tesla, we are all waking up to the fact that we had based this scientific worldview on assumptions, not facts. So we mistook assumptions for facts. And anyone who questioned these assumptions had their TED Talk banned. Rupert Sheldrake, as a scientist, he questioned the assumptions of science. He's saying, wait a minute, they were assumptions, not facts. And they banned his talk from TEDx, but that backfired, of course. So the reason we have done what we've done to our planet is not because we are evil, or it's just because we were misguided and we based fact on assumptions. But now, for the last 100 years or so, there's this new paradigm, this new transformation we're going through, where we realize that the building block of the universe is not a physical particle, it is consciousness. So Tony, this changes everything. It changes how you think, how you look at the universe, how you eat, the value of work, the respect you give to human beings, the respect you give to nature. We realize that we live in a consciousness universe where trees and the fish and the oceans are our brothers and sisters. And if we harm them, we're harming ourselves. But this will only work if we look at the world with purpose. We look that we live in a universe that has purpose, that is not made out of matter, it is made out of consciousness. So it's not a question of mind over matter, it's mind before matter.
Absolutely. The one,
Let me just finish. And I had the luck or the destiny of becoming aware of this by reading this book a dozen times. I'm still reading it. Because the late Willis Harman just articulated it, and pointed it out, so it becomes so obvious that we are going through a transformation, but this is the largest one, because it's not just the ancient civilizations, it's all of humanity, collectively, regardless of who we are and where we come from. We are realizing that we live in a conscious universe.
And I think it's a beautiful phenomenon that a Lebanese and a Hungarian is talking about this in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
which is where really not East meets West anymore, because East meets West everywhere in the
It's all
world.
the same.
But really, this is the city where China and the rest of the world has an interface to connect to ecosystems, to very different paradigms, to governance, to
Talking
life.
of which, look at these
Life.
Where are the kids from? They're from everywhere. School just up here. Our viewers can't see, but there's a stream of international kids with blonde hair and black hair and red hair and brown hair walking past us. East, west, north, south.
This is life,
Here it
and
is.
this is Hong Kong.
These kids, what are they? 6, 7?
I am very bad at age because I told you I don't really think it's important, but young indeed.
Yeah.
They look intelligent though,
Yeah.
and
How well behaved they are.
yes,
If this was England now, they'd be screaming and shouting and running all over the place.
well, let's not be discriminative with the English folks out there. I'm sure other countries
Well,
will.
yeah, if this was somewhere in the West or whatever.
Yeah. So one thing I would like to add to that, and I agree with everything you said, but I'm also a fatalist in my view that we had to go through this path. And actually, when it comes to an oil-based economy, coal-based economy, without all of that, we wouldn't have the foundation for international connectivity, for technology. We wouldn't have
iPhone.
We wouldn't have iPhone. We wouldn't have solar panels, most likely.
Wonderful music.
We wouldn't be where we are, and we had to go through this path to get to the next level. And the next level probably is a level that is a previous level, right? From many perspectives, reconnecting with the core, reconnecting with consciousness. But we had to go through this path. And I started to even think, and this is not anything that I've shared before, and this will be the first time I actually say it, but obviously what is oil, right? Oil is the accumulation of carbon of many millions of years of life, right? Actually is the
Make it a
essence.
little bit more poetic.
You can, yes.
Oil is ancient sunlight.
Wow, that is good.
Yeah,
okay,
man.
let's cheer to that. I
Cheers to
love that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Ancient sunlight.
So it's
Millions of years.
millions of
cold.
years of essence on Earth, yeah. And what do we do with it? We actually burn it. We use it. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of accumulated energy. That, and if we are being poetic about, is not only burned in order to destroy the universe. It's burned to take us to the next level. Have we not burned all that, we would not be at this point in history where we're actually going through the transformation that you describe. And that transformation is becoming faster and faster. The more oil being burned, it's becoming faster and faster. So the bad things we do, if we call it bad things, and obviously it goes without
Everything
saying.
happens for a reason.
Absolutely,
Right? There's a purpose in all
absolutely,
of this.
absolutely.
But just to be the devil's advocate, which I seldom am, maybe not the devil's advocate, let me be the angel's advocate here. What
It
would
fits
have
you much
happened
more, yeah.
Had Nikola Tesla got his way and provided free electricity or free energy to the entire planet without charging us for it from the ether? And now technology, of course, can do that. What would have happened had any of those visionaries not been either killed or murdered or locked up or deemed insane, got their way and said, wait a minute, we don't have to burn ancient sunlight. Free energy is available in the ether, let's just tap into it through quantum physics and other deeper, what would have happened?
I don't think it's. I love
Yeah.
the what if, but I also don't because
because it didn't.
it doesn't make a real sense,
didn't,
right?
yeah.
It didn't. It was just not the destiny of the world, and
No.
we had to put ourselves in this situation. We had to start polluting heavily for the people to realize how important it is not to.
Yes.
And I don't, not passionately, because I can't tell you, I haven't done my research on this, but I feel it intuitively that we had to burn all that ancient sunlight in order to get where we are. And that ancient sunlight, probably, if we are fatalist, as I am, was accumulated only in order to be burned at a certain point in time and get us to the next level, take us through the journey of realization
Yes.
that we need to respect
Yes.
Mother Earth, the universe, and so on. So I'm actually pretty fine with
Yeah,
that.
you're
We,
comfortable, yeah.
I'm fairly comfortable. We cannot do anything about it anymore. It happened. We wouldn't be sitting here.
No.
Definitely, butterfly effect and
Yeah.
quantum physics. We wouldn't be sitting here had this not happened.
No.
And I'm very happy sitting here. And now we have the knowledge how to fix it. We have the knowledge. Whether it's too late, not, and that will be destiny of human race and mankind and the earth. I'm fine with all that. It's just a matter of what do we do with the knowledge that we have now, individually. Are we spreading it? Is it our role, or is it our role to build Tesla, as Elon Musk is doing? And without Tesla, there probably wouldn't be Tesla. Right? So Tesla had to go through his journey the way he went in order to inspire, even if probably not just the name, but the whole philosophy
Of course.
behind that brand. And honestly, if Elon Musk is watching this video, really I have so much respect to you, man, because what you wanted to do and achieve with Tesla, launching Tesla, is actually unfolding. It's happening.
Yeah.
The car industry is
Yeah.
turning entirely electric.
And what's different is people are paying attention.
Absolutely.
Now, previously in history, when Nikola Tesla was around,
Yes.
no one was paying attention to him.
Or not.
Elon Musk, now everyone's paying attention. Why? Because there's enough people who are awake right now.
Yes.
There's
yes.
enough people who've transformed, who've shifted
Yes.
consciousness.
Yes. And he's packaging it.
Not to mention his brilliance.
He's delivering the message in the way people click to it. So
But
Nikola.
this is the insight. Had Elon Musk delivered this message 50 years ago,
Probably. Just like
People weren't ready.
just like Nikola Tesla, right?
Correct.
People were not ready, or he just couldn't deliver that message. But we had to have this learning, this knowledge. Elon Musk had to have this knowledge, this insight, this inspiration to be able to do what he's doing.
we're all standing on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
So the higher the giant, the more we can see.
Yes.
And I mean, are you familiar with William Blake?
Yes.
The poet, the artist, the visionary. He's one of my favorite people. Again, way ahead of his time, ridiculed, laughed at in his lifetime. And just shortly after he died, that people went, whoa, what a genius we had, and started rediscovering his work and his song and his art. And so I've always had a very sensitive, compassionate, soft spot within me for all these visionaries who were ahead of their time. My heart really aches for them, because at the end of the day they were humans with wives and families, and they struggled to pay their rent, they struggled to do what they did, and lo and behold they gifted humanity the greatest gifts any human being can give, but they never personally benefited from it. They had to die often in misery or in extreme poverty. So just from a human perspective, my heart kind of aches for them. But then if you look at the bigger picture of things, you go, wow,
That's
Wow.
how they had to live their lives to.
that was their destiny.
Yeah,
you know?
that was their destiny. There's nothing wrong with that. There's
No.
nothing wrong with that. And I do have a belief that they are with us. They are part of us, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I think what Einstein has come to as a conclusion that energy doesn't disappear, just transforms.
Yeah.
That's life. Life transforms. And then since I had this realization, I'm really not afraid of death.
No.
And I had a very very interesting moment in my life 1.5 years ago when my grandfather passed away, and he was very close to me. His spirit is very much part of me, my spirit. And obviously no one wants his or her loved ones to pass away. But I was approaching the moment with such peace and with such belief and I believe understanding that he's not going anywhere.
No.
And in the moment he passed away, I realized it was my responsibility to carry that spirit forward. And so since then, I am carrying it.
Yeah.
And through me, he's right here.
He's alive.
He's right here.
What's his name?
Mihai, Verb.
Did he pass away peacefully, with peace of mind?
Relatively.
Was he ready to move on?
He was. Unfortunately, death found him a little bit late. He could have saved a lot of suffering. He died in leukemia, but in his very late years, 88 years,
Right.
which in Hungary is way beyond life expectancy.
Ancient.
Real ancient. But he
Yeah.
suffered a lot in his last couple of days, unfortunately. But
Well, you know what?
Destiny.
That stems back from the materialism paradigm. We fear death because in a materialism worldview, there's nothing after death. Once
Yes.
your atoms and your molecules have died, there's no life.
yes,
But in a consciousness worldview, this paradigm in which we live now, there is no death.
absolutely.
Energy is forever.
There's no death
Spirit
for me.
is forever. The soul is forever. But that's why we fear death in our culture, generally speaking. And it's only in an enlightened culture where you don't fear death. Death is a transformation. It's a new beginning. It's a new chapter. Is there life before death, or is there death before life? You know, it all becomes the same thing. But you can see this grip that this materialism paradigm is having.
Yeah.
It's been masculine dominated. That's why I use the word man. Now I refer to us as humankind. But in a materialism paradigm, it was always man. It was always driven by logic, power. That's why wars make so much sense in a materialism paradigm. But in a consciousness worldview, war doesn't make any sense at all. You know, and everything transforms. And this is why I am eternally hopeful and optimistic, is because for the last 30 years, I've been aware of this transformation, of this awakening. And it's not a question of if, will it happen, will it not happen? It's happening.
Undoubted.
It's been very, very subtle.
Yeah.
You know, the newspapers don't talk about it. You're not taught at school. You know, it's not broadcast. But this should be the most exciting news to uplift humanity. We are transforming. We are waking up. We see the earth as part of us. We belong to the earth. The earth doesn't belong to us. And this is where technology comes in. And people
Absolutely.
like Elon Musk and enlightened technology. And as you said earlier, it's one of the most exciting times to be alive.
Absolutely. And let me just share an anecdote from a very unlikely place on earth, Kazakhstan, in Astana. I had the pleasure to spend there 36 hours as I was delivering a keynote speech at a conference.
How was she?
Well, how was Kazakhstan? I definitely believe it's a she.
Right.
And Kazakhstan was surprisingly beautiful and insightful. And for those who don't know where Kazakhstan is, it's in the middle of Eurasia, bordering both China and Russia and many of the other stans. It's the biggest stan out of all in Central Asia. And what was shocking to me, referring to what you just said, newspapers don't write about consciousness. Kazakhstan is led by, you know, with all the features of the word, a dictator, President Nazarbayev. But looking at what the country has produced, I have grown respect for what he has achieved. And the first morning of my arrival I opened the newspaper, and on the front page, President Nazarbayev was talking about two things. He was introducing a new concept, the 100 faces of Kazakhstan, the 100 new faces of Kazakhstan, to give new inspiration of the people of Kazakhstan, what to aspire for, living a purposeful life. He was talking about consciousness, that we are living in an era of consciousness, and he would like to bring consciousness to the people of Kazakhstan. And the other thing he was talking about was innovation and artificial intelligence. How you can use and utilize these in a conscious way to create value. I had to travel out of all places to Central Asia, to a dictatorship, to read on the front page of the English newspaper.
The truth.
The truth.
Yeah.
The truth.
Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
100% mind-blowing. I decided, unfortunately I didn't meet him that trip. I really would like to meet him. And once again, he's talking about particles and consciousness. I mean, President Nazarbayev is way beyond life expectancy, or the age of life expectancy in Kazakhstan. I developed this theory that maybe he just stayed with us beyond his actual time to deliver a message. If we are being very, poetic about this, but it was for the reason you mentioned, was absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So I really recommend everyone to visit Kazakhstan, try to meet with President Nazarbayev. There's something happening. There's something happening.
There's a case to be argued for an enlightened monarchy.
Yes.
An enlightened
yes.
dictatorship.
Yes.
Because democracies failed. Democracy is corrupt to the bone, right?
Well,
Communism has failed us. All these isms have failed us.
I really. This is very dangerous. This is a very dangerous topic because it's yes and no.
And how about an enlightened king or queen that guides us?
The problem about that, and there was never a question that the benevolent dictatorship is the best form of governance.
Yeah.
Machiavelli sang about this, very thoughtfully, and a lot of people are arguing for it. But the problem with benevolent dictatorships, that they tend to work for a while, and unfortunately because of the system, the governance, the next dictator might not be benevolent or might not be as skillful, capable, and then there's no control. The people have no control over their destiny. And as long as they don't have control, but the person in charge is leading them to a better destiny, we can call it, or a better future, or more opportunities, whether it's materialistic or conscious, it's great. But if that changes, everything falls apart.
I don't think it should be hereditary. It shouldn't pass to the son or the daughter automatically. It's like Mahatma Gandhi, when it was time for him to pass away. What happened to that wisdom? It died out. India split and whatever, without talking politics. But ideally, Mahatma Gandhi would have passed on his wisdom to the next wise person, the disciple who was ready to carry us forward, but this seldom happens.
One would argue that democracy is a system where that knowledge transfer and power transfer does actually happen.
Right.
And
Except we don't have real democracy.
Except we have a lot of failed examples of democracy, but we have some great examples of democracy. I would like to highlight the Nordic countries that for me have always been bright
beacons.
Stars. On the sky. I'm really getting along with Nordic people. They are kind, collaborative, smart, transparent.
The girls are pretty hot too.
I'm not sure that this is the main point there, but
but I'm with you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would concur with that the Scandinavian countries, the Nordic countries, are the prime example of a success story, sustainable, and I agree with that. But if you look at the rest of the world, it's not happening that way, right? Generally speaking. But anyway, let's. So I think we agree on this, and let's divert away from politics. But just to wrap this wonderful conversation up, otherwise it's going to go on forever.
Yes.
the essence of the feminine, which is the overarching theme, if you like, of this season with Breakfast with Bobsy. Not that we're having much breakfast. We'll eat later.
We'll eat later.
Is the essence of the feminine. The power of the feminine. You know, I was saying earlier, in a materialism paradigm, the last 600 years plus, been dominated by the masculine. But through this consciousness revolution, this transformation humanity is going through, we're moving into a holistic worldview where the feminine, the essence of the feminine, has a big role. Do you have anything to add to that? Have you come across that through your entrepreneurship and your work?
Big time. I think it was 2 years ago when I was invited to a female gender equality in entrepreneurship kind of talk, and I was sitting on a panel, and that was the first time I publicly said something that I have on my notebook, or in my notebook, as one of the projects I need to do. And that project is a book that is titled The Women's Century, or The Century of the Women, that I put on my notebook a couple of years ago. And that was the first time publicly I came out with it, that you know, people were asking me, what do I think about female entrepreneurship and gender equality? I said, I think this is the women's century. And I just can't really tell much more about that. You know, you said it well. It's in line with consciousness. It's in line with awakening. It's undoubted. Once again, we see that emerging. The hashtag Me Too situation could have not happened before in history.
No.
It is happening right now. It's been happening right now as we speak. And if people are watching this a couple of years later, this is the start of something significant,
My
right?
message is, women of the world, take over.
Yes.
Help us, because
and
us men, the masculine, we haven't done the best of jobs, really, have we?
but once again, we had to go through this to come to this
One
point,
could argue, yeah, it's
and
all part of the plan, it's all part of the purpose, it's all part of our destiny.
I think it's perfectly fine. It's so beautiful to actually see this unfold. Now, when some ladies ask me, what should ladies do? Like, should we set up more associations? And I said, no. Like, I see enough momentum now. I do think it's unstoppable. It's like a tsunami. I think soon enough we need to set up male empowerment organizations, because
we're going to be left behind.
we will be left behind. We will be absolutely left
I
behind.
hope that day comes. I tell you where we have been left behind is emotionally. Emotionally, we're dinosaurs. We're dysfunctional. But again, part of this consciousness worldview is that men, we're realizing that our emotions, we can't express ourselves emotionally. We're almost handicapped in front of a woman. But part of this emergence of the essence of the feminine and this consciousness worldview is that we realize the limitations of the masculine. So it's all connected, it's all one at the end of the day.
Absolutely, yin and yang,
And on that note,
it's happening.
I'm going to gift you that beautiful bag sitting there.
Wow,
As
what an
my
honor.
guests. Ooh, it's got something in it.
Oh, I thought it was just the bag.
Well, it should be just the bag. But anyway, let's take the bonsai out, which we can talk endlessly about bonsai and how great it is. My friend, this is your bag.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having breakfast with me.
Thank you, Bobsy.
Yeah,
It's been an honor, as always. Thank you.